welcome you all to the June 1st Troy City Council meeting, and request that anyone that has a cell phone electronic device, they turn it off during the meeting, please. Thank you. This evening, we are pleased to have with us Joe Mastro from the Kensington Church to give our invocation, and that will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. Joe?
It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
You want to move the mic? There you go.
Thank you. Father, we come to you in your name, and we thank you for government. We know that government is your idea. We thank you for this great city, Lord, that I am privileged to live in and also worship in. We thank you for our city government. We pray your blessing upon each and every one of them, Lord. We ask that you would give us wisdom in these proceedings tonight, and that you would give each of them wisdom, Lord, throughout the year as they lead and guide our great city. We thank you for all of this in Jesus' precious name. Amen. Thank you.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. May we have the roll call, Bartholomew?
Mayor Schilling.
Here.
Councilmember Beltramini. Broomfield.
Here.
Eisenbacher.
Here.
Lemming.
Here.
Howrlack.
Here.
Kerwin.
Here.
Quorum present. This evening, we begin our meeting. We are very honored to have with us our Police Officer of the Year, Melinda Weingart, which we will present a proclamation to her. Jessica Morris, our non-sworn Police Employee of the Year, and Tony Pavian, our 2009 Firefighter of the Year. And so it is with great privilege that I go down to the microphone to present those on behalf of the council. First, we're going to do them each individually. Melinda? This is a proclamation to honor Melinda Weingart, our 2008 Police Officer of the Year. Whereas Officer Melinda Weingart has been a member of the Troy Police Department since 2003, when she was hired in the Patrol Operations Division and the Traffic Safety Unit. She is currently assigned to the Operations Division Patrol Shift 3, and whereas her selection was based on her commitment to both the department and the community, as well as her superior performance, hard work, enthusiasm, and dedication to duty, as well as her commitment to providing the best service to the residents of Troy. And whereas Officer Weingart has continuously shown her bravery in the face of danger. In February 2008, she performed CPR on a non-responsive citizen. In April 2008, she performed an arrest for operating while intoxicated, second offense, where she confiscated a loaded handgun, marijuana, and open intoxicants. And she interrupted 2 suspects in the process of committing a larceny from an automobile. And whereas Officer Weingart always acts promptly to assist other officers and follows through on all her case investigations. In 2009, her thoroughness resulted in the apprehension of a suspect in a criminal sexual conduct incident and an arrest in a home invasion. And whereas Officer Weingart received the Mothers Against Drunk Driving MAD Award for excellence in the enforcement of drinking and driving laws for the years 2004, 2005, 2006, 2007, and 2008. She holds the Troy Police Department's record for yearly operating while intoxicated arrests for a 5-year total of 272. And whereas Officer Weingart goes above and beyond the call of duty, displaying the ability to fulfill the diverse and numerous expectations of a police officer, and is a tremendous asset to the Troy Police Department and the City of Troy. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Troy does hereby join with the citizens of Troy to express sincere congratulations to Officer Melinda Weingart on the occasion of being chosen 2008 Police Officer for the Year by the Troy Police Department. Be it further resolved, the City Council commends Officer Weingart for her leadership, dedication, and commitment to providing the best possible service to the citizens of Troy and her fellow employees. Presented this first day of June 2009, signed by myself and all the council members. And on a personal note, I'd like to say that although Melinda would say she's just doing her job, as you could see by the examples of things in her proclamation, that she goes above and beyond what is called for. But she is truly an example of how great our Troy Police Department is and why we're so recognized as being such a great city. And so it is with great pleasure and honor to present this to you. Now, our County Commissioner, Tim Burns, also has a recognition for you.
Oakland County is often recognized by the state and the country as one of the most outstanding counties, but we know that we wouldn't be recognized without outstanding public servants like Melinda. So on behalf of Oakland County, I want to say thank you for your vigilance and your fight against drunk driving and all you do for the community.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir.
And could I please have Jessica Morris come up? Good for you to be here. This is a proclamation to honor Jessica Morris, the 2008 Non-Sworn Police Department Employee of the Year. Whereas Jessica Morris has served the Troy Police Department since September 14, 1998, when she was hired as a police service aide, working in the communications and lockup sections. She's currently assigned to the Investigative Services Division Property Unit. And whereas Jessica is being honored as the 2008 Non-Sworn Police Department Employee of the Year for her outstanding performance, dedication to her position, professionalism, and commitment to providing the best service to the residents of Troy. And whereas Jessica plays a key role in developing the relationship between the Troy Police Department and the citizens of Troy by providing professional and helpful service at the first point of contact for citizens through her work in the communications section. And whereas in November 2008, Jessica's technical and research abilities with the various police department electronic communications and records management system caused her to identify the address of a heart attack victim who was unable to provide his location. And whereas despite the demands that come with the position and the technical abilities required, Jessica has continuously risen to each occasion, providing assurance to citizens through assessing each situation and utilizing her skills to perform a service that is vital to the quality of life for our community. And whereas in 2008, Jessica served as a communications training officer responsible for the service training of new PSAs assigned to the communications section. She also goes above and beyond by volunteering her time to assist with the annual Police Memorial Day ceremony and assisting needy families during the holiday season by organizing the communications section's collection of gifts. And whereas through Jessica's leadership, hard work, and commitment to providing quality service, the Troy Police Department has gained the respect of the community and other law enforcement agencies. Now therefore be it resolved, the City Council of the City of Troy does hereby join with the citizens of Troy to express sincere congratulations to Jessica Morris on the occasion of being chosen the 2008 Non-Sworn Employee of the Year by the Troy Police Department, and be it further resolved, the City Council commends Jessica for her leadership, dedication, and commitment to providing the best possible service to the citizens of Troy and the Troy Police Department. Presented this first day of June, signed by myself and all members of council. And again, it is the teamwork of folks like Jessica working with Melinda and all of the officers and the rest of the staff in the city of Troy that provide such wonderful continual service that people feel so content, and if they ever need assistance, they're having the best people answer them when they make the call. Thank you, Jessica. And Commissioner Burns has something for you too.
Well, on behalf of Oakland County, we want to thank you for your outstanding service. Without people like you, we wouldn't have one of the safest cities in this country, and we wouldn't have one of the safest counties in the country. Thank you for your vigilance, your service to the community, and making Troy the safest city in America, and Oakland County one of the safest counties in America.
Now, if I might have firefighter Tony Pabian come up. You know, in our community, even though we have a separate police department and a separate fire department, we know that they work together. And there are many times when they're called upon to work together to assist each other and assist members of this community. It is with great pleasure that I present this proclamation to honor Tony Pabian as the 2009 Firefighter of the Year. Whereas Tony Pabian has been a volunteer for the fire department, has been a volunteer firefighter since joining Troy's Fire Station 4 on October 14, 1985, more than 23 years ago. And whereas his selection as Firefighter of the Year is due to his many years of dedication to the Troy Fire Department, having served with honor and dignity in all his roles at the station, including leadership roles. And whereas Tony has served as a firefighter, lieutenant, and captain of Station 4, additionally, Firefighter Pabian was selected as the Station Member of the Year for Station 4 in 1997. And whereas in addition to being a committed and knowledgeable fire officer, Tony works tirelessly to develop and hone the skills of new firefighters within the department. He's volunteered to attend specialized training classes and then applies that knowledge gained to improve department operations and train other department members. Whereas Tony has represented Station 4 on the Safety Committee and the Firefighters Incentive Committee, and serves as training officer for his station. He is always willing to undertake special projects to improve department operations and capabilities, as evidenced by the leadership and effort he has provided to the Rescue Truck Conversion Project. And whereas through Firefighter Tony's leadership, commitment, hard work, and countless hours of service, the Troy Fire Department has become even more efficient in the delivery of quality fire protection to the community. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of the City of Troy does hereby join with the citizens of Troy to express sincere congratulations to firefighter Tony Pabian on the occasion of being chosen 2009 Firefighter of the Year by the Troy Fire Department. Be it further resolved, the City Council commends Tony for his achievement, leadership, and dedicated service to the citizens of Troy. Presented this first day of June 2009, signed by myself and all members of council. Thank you. You want to say I'm sure the folks at Station 4 and the other stations are watching too, because you represent all of them. Thank you.
Thank you. On behalf of Oakland County, I want to thank you for your service to the community and salute you for this special recognition.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
And we're having another presentation, which is an update on the Oakland Fire Mutual Aid Association. And I see Fire Chief Bill Nelson coming up here to
That's
for
correct, Your
that.
Honor,
Yes.
members of council. Hopefully, every meeting, city management will advance an organizational positive so as to inform council and the community of what a positive culture of professionalism that we have with our administration.
Good evening.
Good evening. Mayor, members of council, I wanted to come before you this evening to give you an update on what's transpired since November of 2007 when you approved the Oakland County Fire Mutual Aid Agreement. Troy was the second community out of 40 current communities to approve that. And I think it's very important that you understand where we've come in the last year and a half to 2 years. And we're having a slate.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay. As usual, we had it running fine at 3 o'clock this afternoon, but.
Well, see, we work as a team. Here comes backup.
There it is. Just the right button. Thank you, Tom. Where we've come from is basically we had 4 separate mutual aid groups in the county, and there were a lot of complex histories and interdynamics between communities that caused some to work together and others to not work together. And we saw that as an immediate problem. And we had multiple mutual aid agreements. Some of them were over 35 years old. They were not current. Some jurisdictions were not covered by those mutual aid agreements, and it became quite obvious to us in the fire service that that was not going to be a very good platform to build on for more mutual aid. We had few cooperative efforts between departments. There were a few departments that worked together on projects, and where we did have people working together, we wound up in some cases with duplication of efforts, and 4 hazmat teams was one of the major issues that we had. Just to give you an idea, the colored chart up here just gives you an idea how many different mutual aid groups there were in the county. Each group is colored differently. So you can see we had quite a patchwork quilt, if you will, of different mutual aid groups that didn't really work together. We also had no systematic method of requesting resources in an emergency, in a large-scale emergency. It literally was what I call the a la carte method, where an incident commander would stand in the street and try to decide which neighbor he was going to call. There was no pre-planned method of doing that. We had no methodology to apply for grants as a group, although there were Homeland Security grants, assistance to firefighter grants, and things like that. They either had to be applied for in the name of one municipality or nobody could do it. We also had little standardization of processes and procedures between departments. Excuse me. The stimulus for change literally was we looked at the current Fire Chiefs Association and said, what are we doing? We did not have a home or a funding stream for any of the specialized services that we needed that everybody needs, but nobody has the resources to perform exclusively. We needed a new interlocal agreement, something that gave us legal standing, and we were able to put that together. We had an exercise in Farmington Hill called Farmex, which was a very involved exercise. It had over 300 responders. It was a simulated car bomb into a 4-story Holiday Inn that was being demolished. It lasted over 12 hours. And we found during that exercise that the a la carte method didn't work for calling for mutual aid. And that was just in an exercise. The Gulf Coast disasters have created some other problems for us. In 2005, On a personal note, I happened to be at the time the Vice President of the Michigan Association of Fire Chiefs. On that Sunday afternoon, I was the only one that didn't go out of town. I got a call from the state EOC that said we received a request from the state of Louisiana for 300 firefighters, 38 engine companies, 12 ladders, and 20 command officers. The City of New Orleans Fire Department had literally been working 24 hours a day for over a week, and they needed somebody to replace them. So that went out to all 50 states. It came to Michigan, and there was no methodology in the state of Michigan to call anybody other than try to find somebody from the State Fire Chiefs Association. We put an email blast out, but of course on Labor Day weekend, who's going to read it? They'll all read it Tuesday morning when they get into their offices. So we noticed at that point that we had to do something special. Just to give you the corollary, in the state of Illinois, that request went out at 9 o'clock in the morning on Sunday. By 9:30, it was at 44 different divisional dispatch centers in the state of Illinois. By noon, they had all the package put together of everybody that was going to go. By 2 o'clock, they had FEMA approval. And by 6 o'clock the next morning, the whole task force left from Illinois and was actually in New Orleans prior to us getting the first response back from anybody that said we could send 1 engine and 4 people. Okay? So that just pointed out that we really needed to have a better methodology to deal with this. We also needed to have some way of dealing with the special operations capabilities, the tech rescue, the hazmat, things like that, that again are shared efforts because nobody has the resources to do it all by themselves. The process we involved was a mutual aid committee that worked for almost 3 years to put together the interlocal agreement, come to common understanding with the majority of the fire service in the county as to how we were going to do things, and literally put together the due structure and the participation requirements that we've come up with. So where are we now? We have 40 out of 42 fire departments in the county that have signed the interlocal agreement. They've all agreed to participate in the special operations teams. We have secured Homeland Security funding and UASI, Urban Area Security Initiative grant funding for joint operations projects. The major projects that we have underway or that we've completed right now are technical rescue, a pod project, which I'll explain to you, consolidation of some hazmat teams, box alarm cards, incident management team, and a communications and information management or tech team. Technical rescue. We had several departments in the county, Southfield, Pontiac, and Independence, that were anchor departments. They had been involved in this for a number of years and did it for themselves, but really didn't do it collectively. So we decided that it made sense to build on that instead of having other departments go into that business just for something that might happen once in every 10 to 20 years in a jurisdiction. So we've put together the technical rescue task forces. They now have a defined response area. Look at the little red line there. The south end gets a certain response, the north end gets an equal response, but a different response based on geography and where the resources are. Just to give you a little overview of what technical rescue is, it includes high and low angle rescue, which is rope rescue, confined space rescue from manholes, machinery, things like that. Trench rescue, which is a relatively common occurrence in a lot of jurisdictions where we have construction jobs where a trench will collapse. And then there's structural collapse, which is one of the biggest that we have a concern about because of tornadoes. We're very prone to that. We're fortunate we don't suffer a lot of the disasters that the rest of the country deals with, the hurricanes, the wildfires, things like that. But we do have tornadoes that we have to deal with, and we have always to deal with the threat of terrorism as well. The pod system, we needed a economical and very efficient method of moving things that we don't need to use very often, but when you do need them, they're the only tool that will do the job. The pod system literally consists of several transporters, which are the red trucks. Literally, it's like the same kind of truck that you would think of with a roll-off dumpster. They just have an arm, they pick up the box, and then we have 6 pods. There are 2 shoring pods, which are literally just lumber yards on wheels, if you will, for building collapse, trench rescue, and things like that. We have 2 light and power pods. Each one has a 25 kilowatt generator with a number of light towers, extension cords, distribution boxes and things that we can literally put lights all the way around a scene or a building. We have a trench rescue pod, which contains enough adapters that we can take any municipality's Vector truck, which Troy has 3 of them, and we can literally turn it into a rescue truck. The state of the art for trench rescue until we got into the Vactors was literally filling a 5-gallon bucket by hand in the bottom of the trench. And you can imagine how long that would take if you've got somebody that's trapped under, a ton of dirt. That takes a long time. So now we can use the Vactor technology, but we can't put the truck right up next to the hole because of the vibration and things like that. So now with the Vactor pod, we can literally take and move that truck several hundred feet away and still vacuum the dirt, if you will, out of the trench. And also there's an MCI pod, or Mass Casualty Incident pod. And that basically, everybody has a certain capability to deal with people that are injured up to a certain number. When you get up beyond 20 or 30, then it becomes a serious issue. The MCI pod is capable of treating 100 people. It has oxygen, medical supplies, cots, backboards, things like that. So we can literally bring it to the scene of a mass casualty incident and then start the treatment from there. Hazmat, we originally started out with 4 hazmat teams in the county. In the process of this, we looked at it and said, we don't think we need that many, so we consolidated 3 of them into 1. The merger has resulted in 1 team now that represents 31 out of 40 member departments. We've got a decreased total equipment inventory, a decreased number of vehicles that are required. The extra vehicle that came out of that consolidation is the one that Captain Pabian was recognized for, because he took a 20-year-old or 18-year-old hazmat truck and is now turning it into a heavy rescue for Troy, something that is cost avoidance in the terms of almost $400,000 if we'd have had to buy a new one. We also decreased the need for sustainment. Although we did purchase a lot of equipment with grants, grants do not pay for sustainment. So hazmat sensors, calibration, disposable supplies, all those things have to be repaid or bought on the local government's funds. Our merger has resulted in another serious benefit for us. One is we now have a tiered response based on the type of emergency we have. If we have somebody that just has a question if something might involve hazmat, we can have 1 person respond. If we think that we've got a situation that needs some offensive or defensive action, we can have 1 squad respond, which is 10 to 15 people. If it's a more involved incident, we can send 2 squads. If it looks like it's going to go into 24-hour or longer operations, we now have 2 squads that we can have go for the first 12 hours and 2 more squads for the second 12 hours. So we can literally get into around-the-clock work if we have to. This has also literally created more consistent training for us and also a higher level of proficiency of the personnel that are involved. Just to give you an idea, we have 4 squads. There's 1 on call each week. There's a red squad, white squad, blue squad, and green squad. There's a team leader in each one, 2 squad leaders, and up to 12 technicians. Box alarm cards. When I talked about the a la carte method of ordering mutual aid, 150 years ago, fire departments figured this out. They used to use a telegraph system 20 years before the telephone was invented, that when you had a fire, you went up and you pulled the box on the corner, and when that box number would ring in at the dispatch center, they would pull a little card out, and they would say, oh, that is box 5311, and it's at this location, and these are the people that are due to respond to it. And if the chief gets there and says that it needs more resources than he has, he just takes a little telegraph key and taps it twice and pulls the box again. And that's where the term second alarm comes from. And third alarm, you tap it 3 times and pull the box again. So we went back and revisited that technology, although the telegraph technology is very outdated. The concept of pre-programming and predetermining where mutual aid is going to come from is very timely. So literally we've created box cards for almost every department in the county. Now is working on box cards. We've completed ours. Currently Troy has 24 box cards. Each fire station response district is broken into 4 districts. And then there's a box card for each one of those districts. So that's what gives us 24. And this is actually what a box card looks like. You'll see there's a station response. This happens to be for Station 3 in the northwest area of Station 3. So picture 17 Mile and Adams. If it's a station-only run, Station 3 goes. If it's a box alarm, we get Station 3 and Station 6 because of the proximity. If it goes to a second alarm, we then get another station. And one thing you'll notice that's very significant here is that when you get to like fourth alarm, we're now bringing in Bloomfield Township because they have a fire station that's 1.5 miles away. Where our own other fire stations, in some cases, would be 4 miles away. So you might as well get the closest mutual aid that we can so that we get the most appropriate resources to the fire. And fifth alarm, we bring in Birmingham. We also have tankers predetermined that if we had a water problem, which we had during the blackout, where we started to lose water pressure, if we have a fire and we don't have water, we've predetermined where the closest 6 tankers are. And those are trucks that are special trucks. Typically, they're used in more rural areas, if you look at where they're coming from. Orion Township and Oakland Township and places like that, where they don't have hydrants. But they have agreed that if we needed them, they will allow them to come here if we call them. We also have an EMS response for ambulance that tells us who we can call in addition to Alliance. We may need more EMS resources, and then there are the closest advanced life support units in other communities. And last but not least, at the end, if we do exercise all of that, we have to, in some cases, we fill in fire stations. So when you see change of quarters, it means we're moving fire trucks from one district to another to provide coverage. They're not going to the big fire, they're going to stand by for the next call. The incident management team is a relatively new concept. They've been using them in forest fire and wildland firefighting for many years. It's a group of folks that are trained together, and they come in and they assist whoever the local incident commander is to manage an incident. And we have put together a multiple discipline, multiple jurisdictional incident response or incident management team that will now come, and if a local jurisdiction requests it, they will come and help by implementing the support functions in the incident command system, which we don't normally do on a day-to-day basis because our incidents aren't large enough. They provide additional command staff for the long duration incident. We get something that goes 10, 12 hours. You start to wear out all your command staff. And they also provide incident documentation, because when you get into those kinds of incidents, typically we're talking about some type of reimbursement from either the federal government, through the Stafford Act, or through state government. And one of the newest things that we've put together is a communications and information management team. And this team, basically, Troy is the anchor for it with some of our local resources, but we've added a lot of grant resources to it. And this is a specialized team that will respond and utilize advanced technology to help manage an incident, whether it be radio, voice or computer data, whether we need to do it by satellite, whether we need to do it by air card, wireless video. We actually have a capability to deploy cameras. We did it for the last 2 years at Troy Days, where we put wireless cameras up, and then we can control those cameras from a central location where you can look at those cameras, things like that. So the Communications and Information Management team is kind of the newest platform that we're working on, but we currently have 15 members on that team from about 12 different jurisdictions in the county. And with that, if there are any questions, I'll be happy to answer them for you. Otherwise, I just wanted to thank you for your support with the approving that agreement over 1.5 years ago, and give you an update on where we've taken it.
That's good. Councilman Eisenbacher, do you have a question?
Yeah, I noted on the box card it had helicopter in the bottom, fine print. So we now have access to the Oakland County helicopter time.
You've always had access to it, but sometimes you wouldn't remember that it was there, and if you did remember it was there, you wouldn't remember how to call it. So now we put it right on the box card. Those are all special operations functions along the bottom, that if whatever you need out of that, you can just pick. And here's the methodology to notify them and request them. We're actually attempting right now to interface them into the information management team so that their camera is compatible with ours, so that literally you can look. We have one on a mast and 4 portable ones, with the one in the helicopter would make 6, so that you could have all 6 of those images showing on one laptop computer, and you could control them all.
Can you see thermal on those then?
Well, the sheriff's got no. These are just pure video right now. We have thermal capability, but it's not interfaced into this particular program.
Councilwoman Carlin?
Just curiosity questions, really, Bill. About the pods, are they fully loaded right now? Or?
They're fully loaded right now. They're divided up evenly between north and south part of the county, and all I have to do is I make one phone call right now, and there can be one here in 20 minutes.
This is very impressive. I know that it was a call. There's always that question, why can't government work together? Why can't you make these things happen? It's just very exciting to see this. Now, it's mentioned on here that only 2 are not participating at this point. It's just a choice of...
We don't know. I mean, we actually have made appointments to go and talk to the fire chiefs and in some cases, if they want, to their supervisors. There are a lot of legacy reasons why people don't participate with each other. I mean, sometimes it goes back 30 years to when somebody said something to somebody else and they've never forgotten it.
I just was wondering. And then finally on the payment for services, when it finally all comes down, that's covered, those arrangements are complete?
Cost recovery is covered in here. None of this is free. If we incur overtime as part of these responses, because they're so few and far between, that just becomes a cost to be borne by the agency that has the problem. But if we had a serious trench rescue with 3 or 4 people trapped in it, paying the overtime of the people that come to help, I mean, instead of us having to maintain a team of that magnitude and keep them trained up and equipped and everything else, it's really cheaper to do it that way. And just like we get cost recovery when we send our team other places as well.
And finally, on your initial story, are we now prepared to respond quickly to a national disaster when asked?
We're better than we were. I happen to be involved at the state level. I leave at 6 o'clock in the morning going to St. Louis to a meeting with all 50 states where we're actually discussing what progress we've made in the last 2 years to try to meet that goal. But it's been slow. We've tried to work with the state. The state, of course, has no funding to do any of this, so literally we're out doing programs trying to encourage other departments to sign on to this. We call it MAVIS. It's a mutual aid box alarm system. It's a statewide organization, and all the departments in a county or a certain area have to do is they pass the same interlocal agreement, and then they become part of the state organization as well. Oakland County is poised right now to become the first division, if you will, in that state organization.
Thank you.
Chief Nelson, you had a larger copy of it, and we have a smaller edition here, but on the ones about explaining the box alarm cards, is it possible for me to get a larger copy of that? There's a lot of good information on that, but
Certainly.
I think that working together with other departments is always a great idea. And certainly, heaven forbid that we should have instances where we would need have the teams where you have to send more than 10 or 15. But it's comforting to know that we have the capability in working together to do it, but it takes a lot of organization. And so we appreciate all the time and effort that's gone into that.
It makes me sleep better at night, too. So.
Yes, absolutely, I'm sure.
Very good.
Thank you. Mr. Zerline, that was it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Good job.
This evening, our first item then of a public hearing is to receive some public input on the City of Royal Oak Hospital Financing Authority utilizing tax-exempt bonds for William Beaumont Hospital, Troy. And do we have a staff who is going to present something on this? I know we received all the data and information. Mr. Lamorato?
Mayor and City Council, we are holding this public hearing to satisfy a legal requirement to receive public input on the City of Royal Oak Hospital's Financing Authority to their request to utilize tax-exempt bonds for the William Beaumont Hospital, Royal Oak, and Troy. These bonds will be used for the acquisition and installation of hospital facility equipment to William Beaumont Hospital in Royal Oak and Troy, and approval of the issuance of these bonds will not have any effect on the ability of the City of Troy to issue bonds, nor will involve any liability to the City of Troy for these bonds. We do have in the audience tonight Dennis Herrick with Beaumont Hospital and Craig Hammond of Dickinson Wright if there are any further questions.
Okay, all right. Council, do you have questions before we open the public hearing? And we'll open the public hearing. Is there anyone that is here that wishes to speak on this item? The folks from Beaumont, would you like to say a few words?
Unless you have any questions.
Okay. I know we have had occasion to do this previously, and because of the laws of the way it's written, we must have the hearing, even though it doesn't encumber us with the bonds. Is there anyone else? Okay, then I'll close the public hearing. I return it to the council for a resolution, or if there are questions. Councilman Eisbacher, do you want to?
I will move the resolution as printed. Don't believe we need to read it since it's a page and a quarter long.
Right.
Support.
Moved by Councilman Eisenbacher, seconded by Councilman Fleming, that we approve the resolution as printed. Discussion of the motion. The vote then, Mrs. Bartholomew?
Mayor Schilling,
Yes?
Councilmember Broomfield,
Yes.
Eisenbacher,
Yes.
Fleming,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Kerwin.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to see you. Our next item is a postponed item, and that was a public hearing on a rezoning application, and that's for the Harlan Shopping Plaza, north side of Waddles, west of John R. in Section 14, from B1 to B3. And Mr. Miller, did you want to give us an update of what happened? And I see that we have the owner present. I don't know what transpired as far as them being interested in some of the other suggestions that were made.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, for the delay. Good evening. As you noted, this is a postponed item for the 1.29 acre parcel of property on the north side of Waddles, west of John R. And the current zoning is B1, and the requested rezoning is to B3. You did hear this and conducted a public hearing on May 18th, and he postponed it with a resolution on the floor. Part of what we did is some research and background related to this, and we provide you a photocopy of a picture of the strip center, and we also provide you some statistics on the vacancy rate. That strip center has a 25% vacancy rate. In general, these types of properties throughout the city, which there are 59, have about 11.37% vacancy rate. However, there's a wide variance. There's two of them which are 100% vacant in the city. So we did provide that information to you. Just another clarification. From the mortgage survey, we were able to determine that there is a 24-foot setback to the northern property line, but I will say that that is a mortgage survey that is not precise. The B1 existing zoning is a 20-foot setback, which is in compliance with that. The B2 does require 75 feet, so that's considerably more, and then the B3 requires 30 feet, so it may or may not meet that B3 setback also. The petitioner did supply you with a written comment in your package, and also I know that the petitioner here is to answer any questions that you have.
Okay. Council, do you have questions for Mr. Miller? Yes, Councilman Eisbacher?
First, I want to thank you for the updated memo with the information contained in it. It was helpful. Do you happen to know of the 59 total centers that are similar? Are most of them B1, B2, B3?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No, I don't. The similarities are determined by Nino and assessing department, and he provided that information, so I don't know what those commonalities are.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Madam Mayor.
Yes. Councilman Kerwin, I'll call on you right after. Councilman Fleming?
Thank you, ma'am. Just a clarification, Mr. Miller. You indicated that the property met the B1 setback. did not meet the B2 and didn't quite meet the B3. Is this new information as far as the B3? I was under the impression at the last meeting that it did not comply with the B2 setback, but I was under the understanding that it did comply with the B3. Was I mistaken?
We did further investigation and determined that that it may not meet that B3 setback. So it is somewhat new information, yes. But I will say that we do not have a survey of the property to know its exact distance.
A follow-up then? When the Planning Commission looked at it and they recommended the B3, they were under the impression that the setback was different, that it did meet the setback requirements or not? Just a question.
I'm not 100% sure what they thought, to be honest.
Okay, because I was under the impression that it did meet the B3. And, okay.
Okay, Councilwoman Kerwin?
Has the petitioner been made aware of the other opportunities, such as
The
special
conditional
use
zone?
or the overlay?
We did discuss some of the options which are potentially available in the ordinance, yes.
I still would personally be resistant to going to any non-conformant use. With B3 now being a non-conformant use, I wouldn't be interested in passing that. B2, we knew at that time, I know you're within this much. Nevertheless, I wouldn't go for legal non-conforming use, just as a point of information for the other members of council.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
I just would like to
No?
make a clarification from Ms. Kerwin's comment. It's a non-conforming structure, not non-conforming
Structure.
use.
Thank you.
You know.
Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Miller? Thank you. We'll call on the petitioner. Mrs. Hong, would you like to come forward? How are you?
Hi, Mayor.
Thank you. We
Yeah,
appreciate
my
you
name is
being-
Lydia. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. I prefer because my property was got a few vacancies for so many years. You know, we try to get, get as soon more different kind of business. I can get the tenant, for the community. But I like to get if you cannot change rezoning the B3 or either B2 I still better than B1 right now,
Did you have a chance to meet with Mr. Miller and talk about the different options that might be available? The overlay district, some type of conditional rezoning other than requesting just a straight B3?
Yeah, I prefer talk to Mr. Miller before this prefers B3,
So you did meet with him about that?
Yeah. The first time I meet this
Okay.
meeting.
Was there any plan to do anything that, or you're still requesting the B3? Is that correct?
Yeah, I still request the B3, but if in case I cannot suitable for B3, or can I get a B2 instead, or whatever?
Well, we'll be able to discuss that. We want to know what the options that you were interested in before we proceed.
Yeah, I'm interested.
Would you like your friend to clarify
Okay.
for you? Okay, thank you. Yes, go ahead, sir.
Madam Mayor, she would request the B3 zoning. If she cannot get the B3 zoning, she would accept the B2. And if I understand Mr. Miller right, with the B3 zoning, that's a smaller setback than the B2. So if it was in a non-conforming structure, I think you would have an easier time down the road passing that with a shorter setback than you would a larger setback. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, I understand what you're saying. Council may have some questions for both of you. Yes, Mr. Councilman Fleming?
Yes, for you, Mr. Dianca, that's fine. Mrs. Hart, we really appreciate you coming tonight. Thank you for coming. We always like to see the property owner here, so thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
I note that the Planning Commission was very sympathetic to your request and voted unanimous to do the B3 and to give you that. And the stalling is here at the council table. I've read your letter that you wrote. You indicated that because you did not have the B3 zoning, you have had people approach you to lease that space, and you've had to deny them because you didn't have the B3. My question is, what type of businesses have you had to turn away because you did not have the zoning you're requesting tonight?
Last time we got the...
And you can answer, Mr. Young, if you like.
I think last since I think of 2 months ago, we got the learning center.
Yes.
Yeah, but the city said I can, on our zoning, B1 cannot suitable for the learning center. That's why I decided to get the rezoning for my property.
Okay, can I, just to follow up, clarify, the Learning Center is the only business that you had to deny leasing the property to because you didn't have the, was there something else other than the Learning Center?
Since I think last October or September, I get a dancing studio.
Dance studio?
Yeah, but Mr. Miller said I cannot get for the dancing studio too either, you know. I think so far I lost two ten, about 6 months. About within the 6 months, I lost twice for my new tenant, you know.
That's good to know. I know how difficult it can be in this city and in many cities to try to lease out properties. And as a business person, as a council person, we want to try to help businesses, lease their properties because that's good for you, it's good for business, good for the community. I think what we're struggling with here tonight is, does the property meet the qualifications for the B3? I know in the master plan that's the direction we want to go. I think this council just has to decide tonight. We want business, we are pro-business. Can we make this work for you with the B3? Because my main concern is, do you really have tenants that you're looking to lease the property to? Are you only wanting to get to a B3 so to make the property more valuable so that you can sell it?
I did not plan to sell right now. I did not plan to sell my property so far, up to this point. I like to leasing my property, because I got vacancy about over a few thousand square feet already, at least about 3 or 4 years. I tried really hard, for my agents,
Okay.
That's why I tried to.
So your main concern is to get the zoning so you can lease it, not to sell it.
No.
And you're willing to make improvements on the property. I noted in your letter you've made some improvements.
Yes.
What additional plans do you have to improve that property so that it might be more acceptable to a new tenant?
Yeah, right now I'm planning to repaint my exteriors, all the building, outside exterior, and I just paid for my parking lot last summer. I spent about over $10,000 for paving my street, the parking lot at the front, And this month I will be going to repaint my whole exterior building outside,
Soon? You plan to do this soon?
Oh yeah, I painting about this couple months, because the last month on May it's a lot of raining. I cannot do it, but I plan to do it this a week or a couple of weeks until the weather is better.
Sure.
That's why I try to work really hard on my property.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you very
Further
much.
questions for the petitioner? If you were not granted the B3 zoning tonight, nor the B2, would you be interested in having a conditional rezoning, which would have to be at your request?
Okay.
And
yeah.
did Mr. Miller, have they discussed this with you about what to do, or were they just mainly interested in doing the B3 to see what would happen?
Madam Mayor, my advice would be that the applicant hire competent legal counsel to help them guide them through the conditional rezoning, to help understand exactly what it is.
Okay.
We've discussed it in general terms, but in my own honest feeling, I don't think they fully understand.
Okay, so
what
that
it
is
really
not their request at this time. The request at this time is still for the B3.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Council, do you have further questions for the petitioner? Do you have anything else that you want to say, either of you, on behalf of your request here?
Well, just to reiterate, her intent is only to improve the community and to fill up the building. With the current occupancy rate that you have in the city of Troy, with the vacancy rate, I think what the council needs to look at is the ability for down the road in this economic climate that we might be running into more vacant buildings, and that's what you don't want for any community, because now you've got a higher foreclosure rate, and the city of Troy has been known for its strengths, okay, of businesses in the community. So you'd want to make sure that all the buildings are full or at near 100% capacity, and that's a concern. Her intent is just to be able to facilitate good, strong tenants for the community, for the public, and and there's no intent for selling the building in any way. It's just to put strong tenants in the building.
Okay. And you understand about the structure being non-conforming if it were in either B3 or B2?
Correct.
And what the implications would be if something would happen with the building?
Correct.
Okay. Councilman Carmen, did you want to ask about that more?
Just to simply
Yes,
make a
go
comment
ahead.
to fellow council members, really. Again, zoning stays with the land, whether with this owner or with another one, as sometimes happens, and the conditional rezoning would provide opportunities, but also protect the city and keep it compliant, which I would urge and like to see.
Anyone else have a question here? Thank you. Is there anyone else that is here on this item? We had someone come at the last meeting, but I don't see her here at the present time. Mrs. Killian was here. Okay, this is a postponed item. There is a resolution that is on the table, and it was put on the table for discussion and then postponed. Councilman Fleming?
Madam Mayor, excuse me, I have another question for
Yes.
Mr. Miller, if I may.
Yes, certainly.
In reading the backup here, the Planning Commission recommended approval. I'm looking at the city management recommendation, and the recommendation from the city management is also saying that the proposed B3 district is consistent with the intent of the master plan and compatible with the budding zoning districts and uses, and the city management recommends approval of the rezoning request to B3 general business. So we have the Planning Commission unanimously saying it should be 3. We have the city management now recommending it be rezoned to B3. We have a tenant who's really wanting this done. But can you just explain to me, Mr. Miller, why now it doesn't comply, or why it would not be a good idea to go ahead with the B3? Is it because if something were to happen to the building, a new building couldn't be put on there and comply? What's the problem if we're recommending? Did I confuse you?
You're asking me a question of when you say what's the problem, there could be two perceived problems that I see. One is that if it is rezoned, you would not comply with the rear yard setback, and therefore a non-conforming structure would be created, and then there would be limitations if it was destroyed to a certain amount, whether or not they could reconstruct it without Board of Zoning Appeals approval. But there is also the other issue is, are there some of the uses permitted in, let's say, B3 too intense? And I think that's part of some of the concerns at the city council level. But the direction of the master plan dictates that it is consistent. I will note, though, that our zoning ordinance doesn't fully implement the master plan in its fullest extent, so there's a little disconnect there until we create these new nodes.
Yeah.
Those are the two issues that I see.
Okay.
But there is potential, if the rear yard setback is not met and the building is destroyed to a certain extent, the petitioner would have a outlet going to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
Yeah. The concern I have as a council person, when we give the Planning Commission direction, they come forward unanimously saying that they recommend the B3. And then we have city management recommendation that approves a rezoning request to B3 general business. I have a difficult time as a council person saying that we shouldn't do it, because you guys are charged with enforcing really the master plan and understanding the big picture, and to understand that note. Last time I said, we should postpone this, but right now I'm looking at all the details, and we've got two bodies recommending to this council that we approve the B3 zoning, but yet there's some problems associated with it, but there are outlets too in case something happened to the business. We know we're in an environment where we're having difficulty leasing spaces. I don't want to make it more difficult. I want to make it easier, but I don't want to do anything that's going to disrupt the long-term plan for Troy. So I'm really looking to city management to help us, give us direction. And the direction I see that I'm getting here, you're recommending approval. If we don't go along with this as a council, we're not following the recommendation of the Planning Commission nor the recommendation of city management.
Mayor, Councilwoman Broomfield?
Yes, I had another question for Mr. Miller. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
In reading some of the background information, Mr. Miller, I'm reading here that our assessing department, with all their facts, shared that there's 59 neighborhood shopping centers of this type in Troy. Am I reading correctly when I'm assuming that those 59 neighborhood shopping centers in Troy are B3? Am I making a big assumption here?
Yes.
So we have 59 neighborhood shopping centers, but they are not all B3.
Yes, that would be an assumption that they would not all be B3.
Do you know how many are? Just roughly?
Not offhand, no.
Okay.
I'd have to do research to determine that. Madam Mayor,
yes.
Just to maybe clarify that you would think of a regional shopping center would be like Oakland Mall or Somerset Collection.
Right.
Those are in a different scale and scope.
Right. I expressed my concern on this matter at the last meeting, so I'll reiterate it again. And now it's even more reinforced by the fact that it doesn't fit the B3 zoning either. It would be a non-conforming structure. I think that this particular configuration of this land would be different if they had the opportunity or showed an incentive to be purchasing some land that is surrounding it. The B3s that are next to them are much larger parcels of land. I think that the B1 zoning is the correct zoning for this particular location, and not every neighborhood shopping center is supposed to be providing for a wider area in the community. The B1 was supposed to provide for things that are people need locally, like the dry cleaners, the restaurant, there's a dentist or doctor there, a newspaper office that is there, and some other things that have been in that center. So I'm not in favor of either the B2 or the B3 zoning. If the petitioner would want to come back with a conditional rezoning that would allow her to do some other things with the property but have us have more control over it, I might consider it at that point. B3, if you look at the types of things that can go in under B3, is a very wide, far-reaching shopping center, which I think would have too great of an impact on that particular area. And even though I respect the opinions of the Planning Commission and the staff, I don't always agree with them. And I'm looking at it in this perspective as something that would allow the petitioner to do more with the conditional zoning, rezoning, but not have the negative impact that I see that a B3 zoning would have on the neighborhood. Further comments? Questions? Councilman Eisenbacher?
I have sort of more of a policy-leaning question that I don't see a learning center or a dance studio to be particularly high-impact uses, and they were not acceptable for B1. How often is the city, now this is a rough estimate, how often does the city say, no, you can't operate that business on this piece of commercial property on a regular basis? Like, sorry, your zoning's not appropriate, you can't have this business here. Is that a weekly event, a monthly event?
Both myself and Mr. Steinbeck are involved in this arena, and I will say it happens at least weekly and sometimes daily where you tell people, and there's a variety of reasons why. I mean, someone could have just an inappropriate use somewhere, but it does happen quite a bit. And I'll let Mr. Steinbeck answer. He deals with it. He probably deals with it more than me.
Madam Mayor, member of council, in response to the question, probably equal to Mr. Miller, we talk to people on a daily basis about different uses at different properties. In many cases, upon further investigation and looking at the ordinance and the proposed use, we find that the use is not compatible with the zoning ordinance. However, I would also state that a number of knowledgeable building owners and knowledgeable real estate brokers that know that they have a conforming use don't necessarily come and ask us that question. As a percentage of the ones we deny, it might be 50%, but there might be another 80% of the total transactions that are going on in the city that we never get asked the question because it's clearly understood that they're a conforming use at that location.
The reason I ask is because as a council member, I have an interest in having viable businesses in the city, providing jobs, providing economic vitality. And if they're a low-impact use relative to the neighbors, I don't want the city to be saying no. And that's the quandary I'm in right now is if we go to B3, there's some potential high-impact issues, but the items that they've been rejected because they have B1 are low impact. I'm hoping that we get to a solution to this, that we can have more permissive low-impact uses as we redo our zoning ordinance, or could we have a zoning ordinance change in the meantime to allow these kind of uses, or be more permissive in the short term, so that these 59 different strip malls can rent it out when they have a good prospective tenant.
But can't they achieve that through the conditional rezoning?
Yes.
With another 3 months of time and a $500 fee and a
Right.
$2,000 lawyer and 3 lost tenants potentially.
Mrs. Bloom?
And actually, Mayor, that was exactly what I was going to say, is that we do have another tool.
Right.
As you all are aware, once you approve a potential rezoning, any use that
Right.
could go in that zoning district can be allowed, and we can't keep it to the low impact. So if council wanted to limit it to the lower impact uses, one tool that we do have is the conditional rezoning, but again, that has to be suggested by the property owner. And also we recognize that it will take a little bit of time, and it probably should be an attorney that's advising them, because it does impact their property and will impact it, it runs with the land, so it'll be from this point forward.
Right. But the conditional rezoning does allow for those types of uses that have not as great an impact. But if you zone it B3, the list that is there, as I read page 46 here, I wouldn't want any of those things in that small shopping center. None of those. If I lived within 2 miles of that, I wouldn't want that. But,
Thank you, Your Honor.
Mr.
I've got a
Shirley?
question for one of the Marx brothers, and that is, given the size of the site and the number of parking spaces, are all the uses in B3 really germane to this particular site?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
Council, without doing an analysis, I would say the size of the property is a limiting factor. But I would really like to do an analysis to tell you which ones which exact uses would not be feasible. I don't know that offhand. Mark, I don't know if you have an opinion on that. We really would need to sit down with the plan and look at it a little more closely, to be honest.
Madam Mayor.
Just a moment. Do you wish to
I have
call
a-
on the
I have a
petition
question
again?
for him, yeah.
Yes, would you like to come forward and bring Mrs. Hunt with you? Because Councilman Eisbacher has a question too.
Okay.
For them?
Just in the B3 zoning, it says the lot area, this is for an outdoor sales space for exclusive sale or lease of new and secondhand automobiles. Let's say, for example, which would be a high impact use, correct? Mm-hmm. Okay. It says that the lot area should be a minimum of 30,000 square feet, located on a major thoroughfare of not less than 120 feet of right-of-way width existing and proposed. That would not even comply in a 1 acre parcel. So most of the uses that would be involved there would not affect Mrs. Hong.
My questions, though.
Sure.
You mentioned you had 2 spaces that were unoccupied?
Correct.
What size are they?
2,700 and 1,360.
Okay. And then have you had any conversations with the property behind?
No.
Ever?
No.
Okay.
Not at this point.
Mayor, if I may continue,
Yes,
that's
go
all my
ahead.
questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Unless you had any further points?
No, I think that was it. Again, I'll reiterate, as far as the current zoning that you have, which is within a 1 mile radius of that Mrs. Hong's property, you have several B3 zone properties which would comply with the master plan. Okay, and you've got B2 to the east of that property right next door. So if you look at the mixtures of your zoning, you have B2 and B3 zoning already mixed throughout the community, all within a 1 mile radius. So to even it out from that perspective, I think it would be basically where this is located, and B3 would be a perfect zoning for that location.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman Eisbacher?
Just
You
as a-
have
as a
another
gen-
question for the...
Well, as a general point, I mean, we do have this tool for conditional rezoning that if the applicant wants to, they can employ that. But imagine a 1,600 or a 2,700 square foot and a 1,360 square foot space. 1,360 square foot space, it's not worth the effort. I mean, you're upside down before you even start if you're considering conditional rezoning for a space that's that small, because the costs and the fees and the lawyer and the time and the effort, someone will just go somewhere else. I mean, it's not reasonable.
Madam Mayor.
Well, the other thing that could occur is because these parcels, the property is divided up, sometimes spaces are combined. For example, when Ridley's wanted to expand, they bought the one next door and then they expanded. And so the zoning, again, goes with the land. And this particular owner says that she doesn't want to do some of these other things, but we could have another owner that wants to do some things that are really not compatible with the area. And so that's why I argue the point about going to conditional zoning. Councilwoman Kerwin?
I believe Mayor Pro Tem has not
I'm
spoken
sorry.
yet, and then I'd like to speak.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Howard, did you ask for the floor? I didn't hear that. I'm sorry.
I actually didn't, but I was getting ready to. But
Okay.
I appreciate.
She's reading your body language?
Yeah, pretty much. I appreciate the courtesy. No, I feel that I don't understand how we could possibly legally deny this request because we have B3 zoning at intersections that are probably further away from the intersection than this request. It's at a neighborhood node. It's consistent with the master land use plan. And I really do believe that if we deny it, it would be considered to be arbitrary and capricious. It would be, quite frankly, a misuse of our power here on council. So I support the request.
For B3?
For B3.
Okay. Councilwoman Kerwin?
I think the difference is because you're right by a residence, and that makes it a little bit different than, say, some of those across the street. What I think, though, and this is really to the city manager, Madam Mayor, is that you see, sitting here at council, the request to see an urgency on behalf of those neighborhood nodes. We're in a situation we would not be placed if there was a haste or a more of a priority put on moving through the zoning of those neighborhood nodes. And I would encourage the city manager to see that that happens.
That's an excellent point. I think that one of the primary objectives of the council and the city administration would be to, with all due haste, to try to modify the zoning ordinance to fit where you want to go and what's accommodating for both the businesses and acceptable to the residences.
So many council members have mentioned, or a number of council members have mentioned, want to help business. This just doesn't make sense. However, we know that there is a tension between a zoning that stays with the land and the need to protect the city. And that's where we're caught. We're caught right between that. So even though, and it says clearly in the background information, the Planning Commission moved forward on that, they too felt the angst or the tension. They'd like to see that development. They know that currently in place we don't have either the overlay, the nodes, anything that would be helpful from a planning perspective. We too sit in that same position. So some of us are willing to go out on that reach, and some of us are feeling that tension. I, for one, am feeling that tension when other opportunities are available, such as conditional rezoning. So there we are.
Now, before us this evening, we have the resolution which was put on the table for B2. If someone wants to change that resolution at this point, then we can have a resolution. I mean, I think we've discussed it pretty much. So, Councilman Eisbacher?
In light of our discussion, I would like to amend the resolution that I put forth before to change the references from B2 to B3 in the two locations where it's listed.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Moved by Councilman Eisbacher, seconded by Councilman Fleming, that we amend the resolution before us to indicate changing the reference to B2 to B3 in both places in the resolution, which indicates that the request for rezoning from B1 to B3 and for an approval of the proposed rezoning from B1 to B3. Discussion on the motion? I think we've discussed it pretty much, but any more further discussion?
Madam Mayor?
This is on the amendment, and then we'll have it on the main motion, but we'll hear from Councilman Fleming first. Yes?
Again, I support this because it's a recommendation from the Planning Commission, who we empower to make these decisions. I know the decision, final decision is ours, and a recommendation from the city management. And I think one of the best things to come out of our previous discussion was an agreement to set a timeline on finishing this master plan. And I think this just speaks to that. We really need to move on that. I'd like to see that timeline. But, of course, I second this and will be supporting going to the B3.
Further discussion? This is on the amendment. Mrs. Bartholomew?
Councilmember Broomfield?
Yes.
Eisenbacher?
Yes.
Fleming?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Kerwin?
No.
Mayor Schilling?
No. Amendment passes. On the main motion, Mrs. Bartholomew?
Councilmember Eisenbacher?
Yes.
Fleming?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Kerwin?
No.
Mayor Schilling?
No.
Councilmember Broomfield?
Yes.
Motion passes. For your B3 zoning, passes. Okay. Mr. Miller, I know you'll be working with them on what they can do. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Fleming?
That's it.
Pardon? Oh, okay. Next we go from That concludes the postponed items, so we'll go to public comment, items that are not on the agenda, and our first person to sign up for that is our County Commissioner Tim Burns.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Tim Burns, Oakland County Commissioner. I first of all would like to start off this evening with thanking County Commissioner Gary McGilvery. He was elected in November to represent Madison Heights in the southeast corner of Troy. As you may have noticed, he's been coming up to several meetings. I've made an arrangement with him that he'll be coming to some meetings for reports, and I will be coming up on other nights for reports on what's going on with Oakland County. So as much as I enjoy seeing each of you all the time, my 2 6-month-old twins enjoy me spending a little quality time at home too. So thank you, Gary, for taking some time out of your evenings to help keep the community informed of what's going on. Next, I'd like to thank all the volunteers who came out on May 9th for the cleanup event I host each year. We had nearly 100 people come out to pick up trash along our main roads in the city of Troy, and that was despite some really chilly and rainy weather. So thank you to our sponsors, our volunteers, and I look forward to seeing everyone next year participate in that event. On the topic of events, I'd also like to say that on June 14th, which is coming up in 2 weeks, that's a Sunday, we're going to be hosting our annual Flag Day ceremony for the city of Troy at the Historical Museum. And we have a great agenda this year. We're going to have, as usual, the awards I present to Oakland County Volunteers of the Year from the city of Troy. We're also going to have a presentation by local elementary school students on Wax Museum's skit of famous American figures. We're going to have a performance by one of our local middle school's jazz bands, and we're going to have a performance of patriotic songs by the Troy Community Chorus. So that will be at 2 p.m. on Sunday, June 14th, at the Troy Historical Museum, which is on 60 West Wattles Road, intersection of Wattles and Livernois. Hope you'll join us for that event. On another note, L. Brooks Patterson recently appointed me to a position outside the jurisdiction of the County Commission. I'm also going to be serving in a new role on the Board of Directors for the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. This board is responsible for working with communities to develop areas that have been contaminated or polluted, or old industrial sites that are no longer being used, and we want to use them for new roles and uses. So I'd like to request that the city administration, if there's any interest in my position as this new board, as I get up to steam on how it works and what's going on. Brooks understood that I'm an advocate for job creation and redevelopment in southeast Oakland County, and thought it'd be a good role for me to be involved, and hopefully we can work together to see how we can use some of those resources, not just to help the northern and western portions of the county, but also Troy and Clawson and southeast Oakland County. So look forward to working with you on that role. As usual, if there's anything you want to know about what's going on with Oakland County, you can always go to my website, timothyburns.org, and I look forward to coming up in a few more weeks and giving you an update on what else is new with the county. And also congratulations to our outstanding Troy and Fire Department police Personnel of the Year. I appreciate being able to recognize them with the mayor earlier in the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Burns. Marvin Reinhardt.
Thank you, Mayor. It's always nice to see everybody that got O&E insurance testifying and telling the truth. That's always enthusiastic. You know, you're asking a man questions, he answers them. They're all covered by the same attorney if he happens to misspeak. I also like to thank Jim Burns. He did that greening thing over at the community center. He was there. He's very active, even though I'm not of his party. I do vote for him. He seems to be probably our next senator or something like that. Speaking about our other two senators, I don't know where they're at. I can't even contact them anymore. Nolenberg and Papa George. I think they must have retired. You don't see nothing in the paper. Also, that greening thing in Oakland, I happen to be there. I play bridge up there 3 or 4 times a week. As the people were coming out of that greening thing, I took them back there to look at the solar house, and they asked me questions about it. I said, well, the Troy Chamber must have snuck it here because nobody maintained it. It's only $1 million worth of property. All look through the windows. Probably took 10, 15, 20 people back there because they came out for breaks. And I had time as a Troy citizen to show them how the city and the chamber gets along, because every time you see they have a golf tournament, they don't use a Troy course, they go someplace else. For some reason, our courses are not good enough for the Troy Chamber. It just happens that way. I just have no idea. And also, I think Phil Nelson would be nice to know that his plan to work with the police and fire to work together is finally coming through, because as anybody knows, it takes a long time to start something, to get somebody enthused to do something. Because now I only got 7 neighborhoods now signed up for another type of committee I'm working on to help you people out do your job a little bit better. And I think I'm going to pick up another community that's next to that B3 property, because they really enthused about higher tax values. Also, I have people going around looking for high grass, because that indicates nobody living there. And I got people in Detroit that can strip a house in less than 30 minutes. So we figure if the grass is tall enough, we can strip it in 30 minutes, because if I drive around, that's that man there. I have a squad following me around sometimes, because that's my job. Follow me, my boys can be on the other side of Troy, okay? And then also, you talk about respect, okay? Well, when that manager over there referred to these 2 people as the Marx Brothers, it's kind of hard for me to show respect if he doesn't show respect, okay? Because respect goes both ways. And I think you hired the wrong person. Because if I was Brian, I'd be looking for maybe another job in another city, because he ain't going up. That man's going to make sure of it. As far as, also too, you're talking about zoning, go down to Quinder one time. In Macomb County, they got office buildings, they got everything else. Now, why there wasn't nobody smart enough on our side of the road to do that? They were blocked for some reason, and I know who did it. I could probably look back there. The DDA didn't want it, because that's competition with their junk on 16 Mile. And I call it junk, because I'm talking to insurance agencies and actuators to find out what earthquake ability those buildings have, what wind conditions they can be hit by. Because as far as I understand, when I was doing real estate, inspecting these houses around here, they're substandard. Like I tell a lot of people, it's Troy's model: build them cheap, sell them high, and then you'll be stuck in this city forever, because that's what happened. And I really don't got much to say, except, like I said, I don't sleep. I watch what goes on in this city, and I'm telling you, you should have kept the standards up. When you cut like this, there's a little game out there called Sim City. Play that game one time. Cut back on your services and see what ends up. What that is, you make up a town and you try to maintain it. People work fine. When the services go down, people leave, and you know what you get? Churches, because they don't pay taxes. And then everybody can't do it. So you guys have a good time, and I hope that place on Elks that took over the Elks Club is going to be worth it for the city, and I hope it's not going to be minus on the tax base, because I know how you guys treated the Elks Club. So have a good day, and I'll be back next week with another report. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that wants to speak on items that are not on the agenda? Yes. Mrs. Bernardi? Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. Actually, I came here basically for regular business. That comes up later?
Yes.
Is that right? Okay.
Right after this.
Okay. But there were a couple of other things. One, I just added it, listening to what was going on about the master plan. And, I'm disheartened because I remember when the master plan was developed, it was sold to the community as it was developed with B1 nodes. I remember I went to the community center, went to station after station, and everyone was explaining to me what the B1 nodes would be like, and I thought they sounded good. But you are here to protect us, regardless of the city administration says something or the planning committee says something. You're supposed to set policy. And that's why you're elected. You're not supposed to be succumbing to everything else that people say. You really need to make your own decision.
and make good ones. I mean, I think we witnessed tonight the fire chief and, you know, that decision that you made to fund that was excellent. That's why you're elected. And I hope you don't come to my community and turn a B1 node into B3, because I'll be here every meeting if that happens. You know, I think we might as well tear the master plan up and stomp on it, because we're not following it even now, and it's not even off the press. All right, so I added that. The other thing I wanted to mention was the sad occurrence of the Observer and Eccentric closing its doors in Troy, Rochester, and but Birmingham has raised a lot of ruckus about it. Many legislators got involved, as well as the public. And there's a meeting at the Birmingham Community Center from 7 to 8:30, and all the public is invited, including Troy, anyone else. It doesn't have to be Birmingham. And Susan Rosiak will be there. She's the executive director of the paper, and she's actually the one who made these decisions, as I understand that. It gives us a chance to really try to let them hear how important we think that is. I think the loss of our local newspapers is such a far-reaching and important, significant occurrence. Just not only in terms of highlighting our local government and keeping the public informed locally, but really it's the heart of democracy. People point to the internet and other ways of getting information, but there's so much spin and so much hate and so much twisting of information. Most of the information which they get in the objective and neutral stage of the newspapers, and then that information goes and becomes twisted and used, and really it's a great threat to democracy, in my opinion, that the local newspapers are going. And I just hope that citizens in Troy will attend that meeting. At least it's worth a try. I don't know if it'll succeed, probably not. And I say that because Birmingham's circulation was 3,000, Troy's was 800, and Rochester Hills was about 2,000. And I was told that lots of free papers were given out in Troy, and people never agreed to take them up and pay for them, you know, after they got their demonstrations. But maybe now it's a wake-up call, and maybe people are feeling differently now that they see what they stand to lose, and that they will lose it. We're losing so much in our society, and this is integral to our life as a democracy. And maybe people will come to this meeting and will try to get subscriptions. That's what Birmingham has agreed to do. They said that they are going to bring in 3,000 more subscriptions by the end of June. And if they succeed in that, they'll get an extension of the paper for 1 month. And then if they bring in 2,000 more by October, which would total 5,000 new subscriptions, then they'll continue the paper. And I asked her if Troy couldn't get on the bandwagon, and she said Susan Rosiak said she has to see first what commitment there is. So let's show her. Let's go, and I'm going, and I hope everyone will go, and let's talk about Troy, because we can't be left out. And the other thing I wanted to mention, jumped out of my car on the way here, and I couldn't even get down to the roots, so it's higher than this. But this is the length of the grass on Livernois abutting my subdivision. And I understand it's a part of the lowering of the cost, you know, in the budget. I know money's the problem, but I think we have to reevaluate where money's going. And I know I don't want to upset you, but I'm going to say it again. We shouldn't be paying a lobbyist in Washington when this is going on in our city. This is where the money should go. And not only that, there are other places we could find money. You know, I looked at the DDA budget, which hardly gets any scrutiny, but it's on tonight. It'll probably be approved in 5 seconds. But, you know, I noticed that $250,000 for operations of the DDA, $250,000 for administrative costs. Have no idea what that means, you know, and what that really, line by line, what is that? That's $500,000 right there. But anyways, those are my two comments. Thank you.
Ms. Bernardi, you mentioned you were here on a regular business item.
Yes.
I didn't see your name. We pulled those forward. Can you give me the item? Is it an E item?
It's a, I had trouble with the machine.
Okay.
It was,
you just tell me then, because I know I have
was-
Mr. Savage down for E6.
I believe it was E11.
No, there is no E11.
Okay, it wasn't that one.
You
It
know
was a-
what? You could
it
tell
was-
me, well, we're going to take a break. You could tell me
Okay.
during the break.
Sure.
And because we moved those items up.
Okay,
Okay?
thanks.
Thank you. Council, do you wish to take a break here? Okay. Take a break and return in 10 minutes. said it's 12 minutes. I guess I have to call everybody back. Even though we don't have them here, we'll come back to the items anyway. Okay, because we're going to go to regular business, and we did have a member of the community sign up for E6, and that was James Savage, and so we'll go to that item because that's how we do it. Mr. Savage, would you like to come up for your item?
Yes. Good evening, Mayor.
Good evening.
Evening, members of council. I'm just looking at this resolution that Troy Downtown Development Authority has adopted and recommends that City Council approve its proposal fiscal year 2009-2010 budget. It seems odd that in most cases where the budget's involved and stuff, we get some numbers, like some dollars and cents, and I don't see anything here.
Well, Mr. Savage, it is in the computer there, and also we have it in hard copy. If you'd like to see a hard copy, I'd be happy to let you see mine.
Yeah, I'm sure these numbers are available somewhere.
Yeah.
But right now I don't have any of this information. Also, I'm kind of wondering I'm not sure how long this has been going. Is it 15, 16 years that the DDA has been in operation? And what benefit to the community that has been? Maybe if somebody could give an overview of the record as to what has been going on, where the money comes from, where the money goes, etc. And I was also curious because I remember one time when, I don't know whether it was this exact item came up, but it was regarding the expenditures to or of the DDA, and there was I think it was like a $35,000 expenditure for petunias or annuals along Big Beaver, and I would hope that that isn't in there again this year or anything like it. So with these things in mind, I would certainly like to have a little more information on what you are voting on tonight.
Okay, and Mr. Savage, I'll be happy to give you my copy. It's got some background information on there too, but also if you go online, there's information about the DDA on the city website, and there also is all the information for tonight's meeting on there.
I see
So,
that on one of these documents that was not on the computer.
right. I know. I just wanted to explain that there is information that is out there.
And I hope I can carry on the rest of my days with
Okay,
that one.
thank you. Thank you. Last time you came, you invited everybody to come to the senior dance, and I saw that there was a picture of you in the paper dancing, so I guess you were successful.
Yeah, great time.
Thank you for coming, Mr. Savage. Mrs. Bernard, we found the item you signed up for, but it's not right now. It's not till J11, so, but we did find it. Thank you. Okay, there are no other E items that members of the public have requested, so we'll go back now to the regular business agenda cycle, and that is
Madam Mayor?
Pardon?
A point of order.
We need a vote on, yes, E6, yes.
I'll move the resolution, whereas the Troy Downtown Development Authority has adopted and recommends that City Council approve its proposed fiscal year 2009-2010 budget. Therefore, be it resolved that Troy City Council hereby approves the Troy Downtown Development Authority annual budget for fiscal year July 1st, 2009 through June 30th, 2010.
Need a second?
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman Kerwin, seconded by Councilman Fleming, that we approve the resolution as printed and read. Discussion? The vote, Mrs. Bartholomew?
Councilmember Fleming?
Yes.
Howard?
No.
Kerwin?
Yes.
Mayor Schilling?
Yes.
Councilmember Broomfield?
Yes.
Eisenbacher?
No.
Motion passes. E1. There are no mayoral appointments scheduled this time around. We have city council appointments, and the one that was nominated, brought forward last time is Doris Schechter for the Historic District Commission, recommended by the Historical Society.
Mayor,
Mayor Pro Tem Howard.
I would like to move the resolution to appoint Doris Schuck to the Historic District Commission.
Support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Howard, seconded by Councilwoman Kerwin, that we approve the appointment of Doris Schechter to the Historic District Commission. Discussion? For the term expiring 5/15/2012. The vote, Mrs. Bartholomew?
Councilmember Howard.
Yes.
Kerwin.
Yes.
Mayor Schilling.
Yes.
Councilmember Broomfield.
Yes.
Eisenbacher.
Yes.
Fleming.
Yes.
Motion passes. E, 2 nominations, there are none scheduled, so we'll go to E3, which is the standard purchasing resolution number 1, award to the low bidder, contract 09-8, fire training center parking lot expansion.
Mayor,
Councilman Eisenbacher?
I will move the resolution as printed.
Support.
Moved by Councilman Eisenbacher, seconded by Councilwoman Kerwin, that we approve the resolution as printed. Discussion? The vote, Mrs. Bartholomew?
Councilmember Kerwin.
Yes.
Mayor Schilling.
Yes.
Councilmember Broomfield.
Yes.
Eisenbacher.
Yes.
Fleming.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Motion passes. E4, Consumers Energy Utility Relocation Costs for Rochester Road, Torpy to Barclay. Somebody want to move the resolution?
Madam Mayor, I move the resolution as printed.
Thank you.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Fleming, seconded by Councilwoman Broomfield, that we approve the resolution as printed. Discussion? Vote, Mrs. Bartholomew?
Mayor Schilling.
Yes.
Councilmember Broomfield.
Yes.
Eisenbacher.
Yes.
Fleming.
Yes.
Howard.
Yes.
Kerwin.
Yes.
Motion passes. E5, rescind bid award and re-award the contract for the rough mow various municipal sites.
Mayor,
Councilman Eisenbacher?
I will move the resolution as presented.
Support.
Moved by Councilman Eisenbacher, seconded by Councilman Fleming, that we approve the resolution as printed. Discussion?
Mayor,
Councilman Eisenbacher?
it's unfortunate that we have to re-award this for a third time, but as we were alerted, we definitely need cutting in several areas. That's it.
Mayor?
Councilman Broomfield?
Just maybe a question for our city manager or Ms. Anderson, if she's in the back room. Should be back there. The question is, this is the third time around that the first two companies found that they were losing money, and I don't know if what the problem is here. I mean, I know people bid low so they can get the job, but are we giving them enough information so that they can come up with a reasonable amount? Because both companies had to back down because they were losing money.
Oh.
You shrunk.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. That certainly was the indication from both companies 2 years ago and yet at the beginning of this season that was the reason that they had underbid. My guess is, without delving into it any more than that, that certainly the 2 years ago there might have been a fuel usage increase that they hadn't anticipated. We will certainly look very carefully at the bid specs before this goes out next year. And even I would suggest that we have a bidders pre-meeting so that everybody is very aware of what the bid entails. It is a quite extensive amount of work, and you have to have a fairly large company in order to get the work done in a week. That's really part of it.
And maybe, as you said, a meeting that really outlines a little bit more in depth.
Exactly what the
Because it
work
takes
is.
up your time, it takes up staff time to keep going. And I'd be interested to find out why the company wouldn't just come back and say, because of the rise in fuel costs or this or that, can we recontract? Or do you just keep going down the list? You don't renegotiate the contract with?
Yeah, we don't renegotiate the contract once it is bid, and they do bid on and they have the opportunity to bid an escalating amount from for the course of the bid. Excuse me. So we don't bid that if they're in default. We do go on to
from the last time you took the bids, correct?
Correct.
So really, this company, I'm sorry, just one more statement. This company could have underbid from the last time you took the bids.
They could
We could
have.
be running into the same problem.
Yes, they certainly could have done that. We would, however, obviously take their third-year estimates, not their
Right.
first-year estimate. But, yeah, it is possible. We, however, did meet with them before they accepted to lay out exactly what the bid entailed so that we didn't have somebody walk out in the middle of the season. I mean, the way it was this year, this company did start and then defaulted.
All right, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, Mrs. Bartholomew?
Councilmember Broomfield,
Yes.
Eisenbacher,
Yes.
Fleming,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Kerwin,
Yes.
Mayor Schilling.
Yes. Motion passes. The consent agenda, pardon?
E7,
E7?
emergency purchase. Did you get this?
Oh,
This is the one I found on the table.
Okay.
Due to our tree damage that's going on.
Is this, I thought it was just a report.
no, it's to purchase insecticide. Item E7?
Item
Okay.
E7, you need a resolution for that?
Yes, ma'am, it'll
Okay.
exceed $10,000 with all the applications.
Madam
Can
Mayor?
you go through the background since this is an item placed on the table?
I'd be happy to, but Mrs. Anderson would be happier.
Oh, she just went, I don't know if she's going to make it back.
According to the letter that I received this afternoon, we did contract with a firm to spray an insecticide for treatment of various trees, and we've discovered that the scale of the problem exceeded our initial estimates, and now we're going to treat more trees than we anticipated, causing an amount to exceed $10,000. Manager's authority is under $10,000. Over that requires city council approval.
Okay, it's worse than originally anticipated. Is it spreading
Yes,
as,
It's my understanding that there is an infestation that is spreading.
okay.
And Carol is now here, who is much more articulate than I am on that.
Okay. And so we need the resolution that's on the back of the
Yes, ma'am.
one. Mrs. Anderson, did you have anything to add to this scale problem, the scale of the scale problem?
Just that for those listening besides this body, this particular, or the immediate problem is of the honeydew rain of the calico scale. And the honeydew rain is basically the waste of the scale. It lasts for about 3 weeks. It should actually be gone the middle of June until the September feeding time again. But it really does, I mean, this is a problem that has really escalated in the last 10 days. It just is an enormous problem, and other communities are not seeing this. We have done some research with the MSU Extension Center and so on, and we haven't been able to find anyone else that is having the problem in the same way that we are. This will not take care of all the trees with scale in the city, but we will be doing 2 sections of the city.
Was it brought into the city by diseased wood or diseased products that came in or something?
It goes by, the scale attaches to the trees by wind or carrying from birds' feet. Could be a number of ways. But 2 weeks from now, people will not have the resulting problem that they're seeing, which is the waste or the excrement that is sticky and
Right. I was interested in why we in Troy are having more problems than other cities with it.
Unsure. We are unsure of that at this point.
Okay.
What-
Another question, Councilor Eisbeck?
What trees are affected?
Particularly locusts, but they are on lots of other trees as well right now. Crab apples, red buds, magnolias, sweet gum, maple, probably almost every tree we have that is established in the city.
Thank you.
It is certainly something that we will have to watch for the near future.
Okay. Councilman Eisbeck, you want to move the resolution?
Yeah,
Please
I'll
have
move it. I'll read it. Resolved that the City Council hereby approved the emergency purchase of additional insecticide to treat Troy Street trees in the amount of $4,846.50 from Banner Sales and Consulting of Union Lake, Michigan.
Second.
Moved by Councilman Eisbacher, seconded by Councilman Fleming, that we approve the resolution as just read and laid on the table. Discussion? Vote, Mrs.
Madam Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Fleming?
Just probably another question from Mrs. Anderson, if I may. This is to treat Troy Street trees. That's just a small fraction of the trees we have. Step in the right direction.
That's right.
We don't treat the other trees in Troy, individual homeowners. I don't know how to deal with it. Does this continue to spread? What happens?
It can do that, yes. What we are trying to do is to treat the street trees, but private property owners who are seeing scale on their trees should treat them as well in order for this not to spread. Now, I do want to say at this point, the scale problem is not the same kind of problem that the emerald ash borer was. It
doesn't kill the tree.
It doesn't kill the trees in the early on. There is some dieback and some decline of trees, but at this point we have not seen, and we haven't had it long enough really to know the long-term effects. But we don't think it's the same kind of pest, and it won't cause the same kind of problem. It won't kill the trees in the same way that emerald ash borer did. But private property owners, in order for this not to spread, should treat their trees as well. Probably giving you more information than you want. But the fear I have is 3 weeks from now, when people don't see that when they don't see the problem of the waste on their driveways and their decks and their cars, will think the problem has gone away. And in fact, it isn't. It's just that the bugs are not feeding at that time. Again in the fall, early August or mid-August, we'll probably see this again. So it doesn't go away just because you're not seeing the waste.
Okay, Councilman Fleming?
Is there something we can do to educate our public, our residents, by putting it on the website?
We do have it on the website right now. We are getting, literally in the last week, we've probably gotten, I'm going to conservatively guess at 100 calls about this. So it really is something that people are needing to be educated about, and we'll continue to put things out about this.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
In addition to the streets, are we dealing with our trees in our parks as well?
We haven't seen the same problem in the parks at this point as we have in some sections of the city, particularly sections 2. We have gotten a lot of calls from 11, 12, 13 right now, which are adjacent to 2, which kind of makes sense that it's moving southerly. But we will treat in the parks if needed as well.
Okay. The vote, Mrs. Rathana?
Councilmember Eisenbacher?
Yes.
Fleming?
Yes.
Sarlak?
Yes.
Kerwin?
Yes.
Mayor Schilling?
Yes.
Councilmember Bloomfield?
Yes.
Motion passes. F is consent agenda. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry for the interruption, and if I may,
There was another item placed on the table requesting a closed session, hopefully sometime next week, perhaps Monday, to discuss a strategy for the collective bargaining agreement between the City of Troy and the Troy Police Officers Association.
I see that it's on the back of your memo to us. I don't know what people's schedules are for Monday the 8th.
Mayor?
Mayor Pro Tem Howard?
Is this something we can do tonight?
I don't have enough information to give you a zone of comfort, I don't think, tonight, but I will by Friday.
We have a meeting scheduled for the 15th. It's too late? The 15th is too long, correct?
15th is, yes, I would appreciate next week. Otherwise, I can mention some things tonight if need be. But my preference would be to wait until next week to get us all in the same direction on this matter and get direction on this matter.
Okay. We have a study session tonight. Could we have the closed session after the study session if it's not long?
Who can't make
You said you didn't have enough information.
I have some information, but I don't know if it's. I could start out tonight, and if you want more information, then because I was asked some questions, I know that I'm still researching, but I'll be happy to give you what I have, and if I can get direction in that regard, I can continue. If not, perhaps we can carry on to a following time.
Mayor?
Mayor Pro Tem Howard?
Yeah, I would say that's, since we're here tonight anyway, let's talk about it tonight and see where we go with it. And we might be able to, at least get started with it. Maybe whatever it is that we need to discuss will be resolved tonight too. You never know.
Sure.
Well, but then we have the opportunity to move the resolution. We have to do it in this session. So, Mrs. Bloom?
Mayor, there is a proposed closed session resolution in the L section. If you wanted to amend it, the language is provided here, and you could add that to the resolution in L if that's council's desire.
Okay. But my concern is if we need an additional time to meet before the 15th, we need to have a resolution tonight to do that. So we could move it and then we can always cancel it if we don't need to do it. Is that correct?
Can't we call a special meeting? Can you call a special meeting for a closed session?
Mrs. Bloom?
Yes, you can if that's the item that's on there. I mean, there are special requirements for calling a special meeting, so yes, you could, and the only item would be to go into a closed session.
Mayor?
Councilwoman Brunko?
I understand the idea that it would have to be scheduled tonight and then we could cancel it. I'm not going to be in town on Monday. That doesn't mean you can't have a special meeting. Mr. Zerlag mentioned Friday potentially being, we could start tonight, and if we needed to finish, I will be in town Friday, but I don't know what other people's schedules would be. Mayor?
Yes.
And in addition, if we go ahead and amend our closed session to include this for tonight, I would, just so that we are sharp in our thinking, I'm just wondering how pressed we are on the study session, if that could be postponed so that we would have more time on the two closed session items, or is that something that we have to look at? It's a timeline.
If you're asking me,
well,
my preference would be to forego the study item and have the executive session.
And then do the study item on 15th?
Yes.
Okay. That's fine with me.
So I understood that to amend the closed session, to add what we're discussing right now, and then to postpone our study session. Is that?
To the 15th.
To the 15th. Is that a pressing item, the study session, Ms. Bloom?
Yes, that is something that you certainly can do. And as far as even though November is the date of the election, we would encourage you to act on that quickly, but the 15th should not pose a problem. We do have deadlines that we need to comply with.
So the 15th would be
summer. But yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Do you want to move a resolution to include this
Yes, I would move for our closed session this evening. Do we have to forward that?
No,
We can do
wait.
that.
You could do that at L.
Can we do it now?
You can do it in L, Mayor. That's where
Okay,
it's
all right.
proposed, is in
When
the
we
L
get there,
section.
we'll add that on. Okay.
Question,
Yes.
Madam Mayor. Are we going to go ahead and schedule one for Friday, or are we planning?
Let's see, I have enough time.
My understanding was that, well, this is up to you.
Well, I was just trying to read the tea leaves here.
Sure. The way that the leaves read, from my perspective, is that I can try to get direction on a strategy tonight, and if I can't, then we'll have to schedule another session. I don't know if you can do that in closed session to schedule a meeting
No,
on
you
Friday or not.
They have to be a special meeting.
Just special.
So I don't know if it would be better just to schedule
it now, cancel it.
Cancel.
If it helps any, Mayor,
Councilman Brookfield?
when I mentioned I'm in town Friday morning, it's Friday morning, so that may, not Friday night. And if you wanted to do it Monday, I just wouldn't be here, but I would get the information tonight. Can you do it tonight?
I don't know what everybody else's schedule is, so.
I'm
yes.
wondering when Councilmember Beltramini returns too. Will she be back?
I don't know her schedule.
I don't have the dates.
If I may make a suggestion, perhaps we can have the closed session on that topic to discuss strategy tonight, and then if anyone has a zone of discomfort, perhaps I can address that question individually during the week and still get a consensus this evening.
Okay, let's try that and see. If worse comes to worse, I can always call a special meeting.
Sure.
If need be. We
Okay.
won't do it if we don't have to.
May I excuse myself?
Pardon?
May I excuse myself from the balance of this meeting?
The balance of this meeting?
I'd like to take about 15 minutes and make a couple phone calls if I may.
Yes.
With help with this.
Who's going to do it? John or
You two gentlemen,
Brian? Together. All right. Okay, then we'll go to the consent agenda. Is there any one that would like to have something exempted from the consent agenda? Council members? There's no request from the audience. Do you have any F items you want exempted? David? No? You want to
Mayor?
move, Mayor Pro Tem Howard?
Let's see, F2, F4C, and F7B.
F4C and F7B. Okay. Anybody else? Okay.
I'll move the resolution.
Yes.
Resolved that all items as presented on the consent agenda are hereby approved as presented with the exception of items. I have F2, F4C, and F7B, which shall be considered after consent agenda F items as printed.
Support.
Moved by Councilman Kerwin, seconded by Councilman Eisenbacher, that we approve all the consent agenda items with this vote except for F2, F4C, and F7B, which will be considered after this discussion. Vote, Mrs. Bartholomew?
Councilmember Fleming,
Yes.
Howard-Lack,
Yes.
Kerwin,
Yes.
Mayor Schilling,
Yes.
Councilmember Bloomfield,
Yes.
Eisenbacher,
Yes.
Motion passes. Mayor Pro Tem Howard, you want an F2?
Thank you, Mayor. I just have minor change request on the minutes, and it's on page 127 of our agenda. It's probably the easiest way of describing it.
Right, thank you. All right.
And I'm going to get there myself.
Any council comments?
Indeed. And I just wanted, for clarification purposes, to, on the bottom paragraph there, it should read, Mayor Pro Tem stated with all due sincerity that shortly after he was elected in 2000, he wore a political button to a Troy City Council meeting, and then Mayor Gene Stein and then Council Member Louise Schilling took him aside individually and kindly told him council members try to stay apolitical during official city functions. And then further references from that point on should refer to you as Mayor Schilling, so there's clarity as far as which mayor it is we're talking about, whether it's you, Mr. Pryor, or Mrs. Stein. So that was it.
So you want the minutes corrected to
Read.
correctly indicate what your comment was?
So those, yes,
Right.
those
Okay.
proper nouns are described better.
Then would you like to move approval of the minutes with correction?
Absolutely, thank you. I would therefore move forward a resolution to approve the minutes as amended.
Second.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Howlack, seconded by Councilwoman Brinfield. Is that you? That we approve item F2. Discussion? Vote, Mrs. Bartholomew?
Councilman Howlack?
Yes.
Kerwin?
Yes.
Mayor Schilling?
Yes.
Councilmember Broomfield?
Yes.
Eisenbacher?
Yes.
Fleming?
Yes.
Motion passes. F4C, Mayor Pro Tem Howlack, you wanted the exercise renewal option for the photographic services?
Mayor?
Yes.
Thank you. I just wanted to express my opinion that I think that we should basically resubmit this for consideration of bidding. Basically, I don't want to exercise the renewal option. I would like to modify the scope downward, and I'm concerned that in our budgetary stage that photography services are not what I would call a phase 1 or tier 1 primary service that should be protected from budgetary considerations.
I assume that's after you received the answers to the question that you
Absolutely.
had, that we all got a copy of? Okay.
That was my question.
Okay.
Mayor?
Yes, Councilwoman Broomfield?
Yes, I looked at this item as well, and the answers, and while I appreciate the answers and I appreciate the expertise that a professional photography company provide, I would agree with Mayor Pro Tem Howlack. If we could put this out for a bid at a smaller scale, I mean, we're looking at $24,000 a year for a professional photographer, and while that may be acceptable in an economy that can sustain that, I look at that and I see the value there of someone's job or half of a job. And perhaps just for the next few years to look at scaling down what we're asking of a professional photographer to do.
And we don't know that this person might bid with a scaled down version too.
Well, I think probably what happens when you think of meeting with somebody, you say, this is what we want. And so they're going to come back and, well, if these are the services you want, this is what it's going to cost. And I'm not asking that we look for a company with the same level of our need. I'm suggesting that we rethink the need and maybe scale down the need somewhat so that we could cut it in half or not spend as much money on taking pictures.
Madam Mayor?
Councilwoman Kerwin, were you next?
I'm looking at page 152, which shows the comparison. I understand the comments have been made, but I do notice that this photographer, this company, is half of what the same kind of shooting takes place. I know that there is an expense in that, but I do appreciate the fact someone is in fact doing it for less than half of what another company is doing. So it seems like we're getting a pretty good deal. Not the amount of money, but for this kind of job, we're getting a pretty good deal. And the ability of a person to come day, night, little while, and so on, in order to come up with such things that we can. Right. So I don't want to completely go out of the marketing of Troy business, and it seems like this is a half of what the other cost is, as reflected on page 152.
Mayor?
Mayor Pro Tem Howlack?
One of the other purposes of submitting it for bidding and not renewing it is to obtain additional quotes. As most of you probably are aware, although Michigan's economy was stressed 3 years ago, the situation has deteriorated substantially, and the ability of goods and services right now greatly exceeds demand. And I think that it would be wise for us to sample the market, so to say. Whether that's how we do that and at what scope, that's another issue, but I think that certainly it would be wise to do so.
Further discussion?
Just one more, and this is now on page 153. I noticed that this had gone out to 52 vendors that time, and two responses were received at that time. The score from this company was 88. The score from the other was 19. Those are the only two who responded at that time. If we can get it at the same price for that kind of value, makes sense to me.
And when were the 2 responses received? I'm looking for a date in here.
It should have been 3 years ago sometime.
06.
With no increase.
It says 5/26/06. Do we have a resolution that someone is going to proffer?
I'll move C as written and see what happens.
Pardon?
I'll move C as written and see what happens.
Moved by Councilor. Do we have a second?
Okay.
No one's seconding. Even though I think we've had excellent service from this photographer, and I do see the need for having photography services, I do understand why some council members are asking for a different, not a different company necessarily, but a different amount of photographs that are taken. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
And if we have less photographs taken and they could still be used in a similar fashion, perhaps we could get that at a less expensive rate. And what Councilman Mayor Pro Tem Howard is saying is that because of the economy now, and this was bid at a time which we're not quite in the economic straits that we are now, we may get a lower price. That's what you're saying, correct? Okay, so we need a resolution then from somebody to do something with this item, since no one seconded Councilman Kerwin's resolution to move as printed.
You took no action.
Yes. What? Yes. Did you have a question for staff?
I believe we have some input from our.
Oh, we do. Okay, I didn't look over there. I'm sorry. Mr.
Mayor,
Alvarado?
Mayor and City Council, if the concern is the cost, it's estimated cost, instead of going through the whole rebidding process, we could probably scale back the number of photos used at the reduced cost that we are getting this contract for. That would save us the time and effort of going out through the whole rebidding process. We could scale back, and if you feel more comfortable with whatever dollar amount you want to put in there not to exceed, we could work with that number under our existing contract and renew it. Otherwise, we'd go through the cost of rebidding out and going through the whole process again. So if you feel comfortable at half of that cost, or 15, not to exceed 15,000, or whatever it may be, or we could do something like that.
Would you suggest we table this item and then have staff bring it back to us in a different form, or do you want us to give you a number tonight?
Mayor?
Mayor Pro Tem Howard?
I would actually like to see this go out to bid, and we only had 2 bidders 3 years ago, and I don't think it was a very good statistical sampling. Clearly the one bidder was a lot better than the other bidder, both in price and in quality, but I would like to see what else is out there.
And we may find that we only have a few people bidding again, but we won't know if we don't try, correct?
That's correct. And
okay.
I'll try a resolution, see where it goes, since the first one didn't go anywhere either. I'll put forward a resolution to direct the city administration to prepare bid documents and to submit the photographic services, I guess you would call it a contract, to a bid and send it out for a 3-year bid at a reduced scope. And I will give you folks the authority to figure out what that is, since we're not involved in the day-to-day operations, but something less than what we have, because I don't even know what the actual price has been. You have a not to exceed amount, and I don't know what the actual amount has been the last 3 years.
Do we have a second?
I'll support.
Moved by Mayor Pro Tem Howard, seconded by Councilman Eisenbacher, that we direct staff to put out for bid photographic services at a reduced scope. Is that clear?
It is.
Okay. Discussion? I have no problem with asking for the information as long as we can still provide quality product for the items that we need the photographs for. Discussion? Further discussion? Okay, Mrs. Bartholomew, the vote on the new resolution?
Councilmember Kerwin?
No.
Mayor Schilling?
Yes.
Councilmember Broomfield?
Yes.
Eisenbacher?
Yes.
Fleming?
Yes.
Howard?
Yes.
Motion passes. And you also wanted F7B, the authorization to institute court action. You had that A we approved, but not B. I know, because you want to vote against that.
That's
okay.
right.
All right. Okay, so you just want to have a separate vote.
That's right. Thank you, Mayor.
See, I got it figured out. Okay, so no other discussion on that? Okay, can we have the vote then just on F7B? Because he wants to vote no. So we voted.
You need a motion.
We need a motion.
I'll move
yes.
the resolution, Madam Mayor, as written. This is B, authorization to institute court
Yes.
action. This is resolution.
Right.
Support.
Moved by Councilwoman Kerwin, seconded by Councilwoman Broomfield, that we approve the resolution of authorization to institute court action. Discussion? The vote, Mrs. Bartholomew?
Mayor Schilling?
Yes.
Councilmember Broomfield?
Yes.
Eisenbacher?
Yes.
Fleming?
Yes.
Howard?
No.
Kerwin?
Yes.
Motion passes. And now we go to L1, and we'll call on you, Councilwoman Broomfield, for adding this. Pardon?
I think J item.
I'm sorry.
J11.
Everybody's pointing here. Okay, sorry, Mrs. Bernardi. J11, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mayor.
And we didn't do council comments either. I'm really rushing it. Sorry.
You okay?
Mayor, you have introduced several times the fact that the state of Michigan now has legislation that would allow cities to, any city could adopt the legislation that would mandate that banks who own foreclosed properties would have to keep them up to an acceptable state of maintenance. However, our city administration has said that we don't need that legislation, claiming that we have the problem covered in various areas in our city code. But here's my question. If we have the needed legislation, why has a foreclosed home with a 6x6 hole in the roof and an even larger hole in the front wall of the home, with gutters falling down, siding falling off, why has that home been allowed to sit in my neighborhood for months and months and months on end? If we have the legislation and we have the means of a remedy, it would seem that it should have been used. I did call the city a few days ago about that, and the answer was they didn't even know who owned it, because the transfer doesn't go on as it does in a normal sale, and then the city's left out of the loop. And well, after I hung up the phone with the city, I spent 1 hour of detective work, and granted, it wasn't all that easy, but did come up with the real estate agent, who obviously didn't want to be found, but I found him, and also found what agency he works at, and that again was difficult because there was a lot of barriers to that information. And I also discovered that the home had been bid upon and was going to go for a sale or a closing on the 29th. So I called today to find out if it did sell. I have the name of the purchaser. It did sell, did close. I have the name of the purchaser. I even have the phone number of the purchaser. And I called the city and said that I have the phone number and was waiting, asked for a return call. They haven't called back yet, and I hope they will, so that they'll have the phone number of the purchaser of that property. Now, I did do a few other things. I went to the internet and looked at Farmington's legislation, which you referred to, which they adopted, and did some perusing on our charter and codes rather, and also pulled off Farmington's dangerous building ordinance. And this home would definitely fit Farmington's dangerous building code because a portion of the building or structure is damaged by fire, wind, or flood. This property was damaged in the windstorm that we had. If you remember, the trees came down, a tree came down on its roof. Or other causes, so that structural strength or stability of the building or structure is appreciably less than it was before the occurrence, and on and on. And then another part says, a part of the building or structure is likely to fall, become detached or dislodged or collapse or injure persons or damage property. And I know when I talked to the city, the answer was, well, you know, we don't want to get into the demolition business or the landscape business or, you know, and I think that's a red herring. I really am not addressing this issue to make the city go down paths that it shouldn't be going down, but I think a path of protecting our property values in neighborhoods, down the path of health and safety for all parties, that is an appropriate path for the city and for the council. And my question now is, with this new owner, are we now going to have to sit and wait months and months, if not years, before, you know, the codes are actually enforced? Because I think enforcement is the problem. I agree with the city that it's in the codes. We could do something, but it's the enforcement is the issue. And let me point something else out about the property values. This home, I know, I don't know if I should disclose it, but I also know what price it was purchased for. And it's just astoundingly low. Well, obviously there's so much to be done with it. But that low, it's not even close to the property values in my neighborhood. And that has done damage to our property values because, as you know, real estate comps compare the recent sales. Well, that sale is going to just demolish our comp comparison to other neighborhoods. So it was devastating in terms of property values. In looking at the codes, it seems to me that what could have been done was enforcement much quicker. And enforcement meaning if they don't comply with quick remedies to these very dangerous situations, then make that party demolish it. And in the Farmington Code, they even have a way of recouping the cost of that. You know, it doesn't fall on the city. They would force demolishment of that property, and then the city puts a lien on the property and gets the money back. If that had been done, that would have been a clean property, a beautiful property, because we have a beautiful neighborhood where all the neighbors try to keep their homes up. It's gorgeous there, and we were working on our entrances, and we're just doing all kinds of things to beautify it. And so we'd have that beautiful piece of property. Somebody could have come in, bought the piece of property, and then erected a new home there. Now we've missed the mark, because now it's sold. And my question is, how long do we have to wait? Because it's a terrible, terrible eyesore. It's worse than, we've had other foreclosed properties in our neighborhood, and sure, they don't look very good when they're sitting there, and I know what those properties look like, and we've gone through it, and those two that I'm thinking of were bought and brought up to par, and they're beautiful, and they sold for a very good. This is different because of the damage from the wind in that tree. This is the most abominable property you would ever. I wish and hope that you will come by. That the street is Scottsdale. It's 329 Scottsdale.
Right.
I pray that one of you or some of you will go by and just look at that property, because you will not believe what you see.
Okay.
Really.
Now, I'm going to inquire of Mr. Steinmack how long they would have. Mr. Murphy, may I ask Mr. Steinmack? Mr. Steinmack, I have two questions. First of all, I assume that no one turned in this building before this. If the building department didn't know about the home. And secondly, now that it has been sold, how long does the new owner have to bring it up to code?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, for the opportunity to respond. We were very aware of the structure. We had previous violation notices out on the structure, and we had not been successful in getting the current owner or the owner of record as of our last inquiry, which was a bank that had the property. That bank had, under the ordinance, had a duty to forward our correspondence and our violation notices to the new owner. We would hope that they took that responsibility and did forward that in the new property owner, if in fact one has been made, that they are aware of what those violations are, and we will meet with them to determine a reasonable schedule to get those violations corrected. If they didn't, then we have certain due process that we have to follow of notifying them of the violations that are outstanding and giving them a reasonable time to make the corrections. With regard to the grass, until council approved the rough mowing contract, we didn't have a contractor to go out and mow these foreclosed properties. So we're a little bit behind on those situations in making those corrections with regards to grass and debris in that. As noted in the memo that I sent, up to this point in time, the city has not taken on the responsibility of making repairs to derelict structures. Our only other option is through the Dangerous Structures Ordinance, and Chapter 82B does give us the authority to declare this structure to be a dangerous structure, and council ultimately has the authority to order its demolition. We would hope, especially in these times, that the existing structure can be repaired and made livable again, rather than destroying it and having it removed from the site, because current conditions would show us that it's unlikely that a new home would be built on it in any time in the near future.
And how long, time-wise, how many months does this person have to fix the building?
Based on what I know of the structure and based on the reports that I've seen on the structure, I would say that that a properly motivated owner could have the repairs done to it within 60 days.
Okay. Now, do our ordinances need to be changed to enforce quicker, or do we match what Farmington Hills has done? Is it Farmington or Farmington Hills? I've forgotten here. I know we talked about looking at their ordinance.
As stated in this memo and the previous memos regarding the Farmington ordinance, we have very similar regulations in place already. The difficulty is dealing with the numbers and dealing with the volume, as well dealing with the contractors. As experienced this evening, we're on our third or fourth mowing contractor, if you will. even if we take on the responsibility of making corrections to these. We have to go out for bids. We have to have contractors in place to do that work. Although I do not know City of Farmington's dangerous structure ordinance, I presume it is based upon the same state law and the same due process requirements that we have in ours. So I would say that we have very similar language in having that.
Because there's certain state standards.
Well, the state statutes establish the notice requirements and the due process requirements that we do have to follow. I will state that we had already begun the process in doing the title searches and that to bring it to this council as a dangerous structure and get the demolition order. And if we don't see much change to the condition of the structure with the new owner, we will be bringing that forward.
Mayor?
Thank you. Councilwoman Broomfield?
Mr. Steinmetz, a couple questions. You talked about following through with due process for the new owner. And from what I understand, you sent out notifications to the bank or to the owner at the time the bank owned. Aren't there fines that could be leaned against the home? I understand all the foreclosures and just the craziness that's going on, but if a house sits there and you're following due process, but you're not getting any results, you're not hearing back, you're assuming that they let the new buyer know these things. I mean, do we not put liens against the property so that at closing, these liens then would surface through a title search so that the new owner would know that there are fines against this new home that they're buying from the city?
Yeah, that may be one. Having a lien on the property for fines may or may not have keyed in the new owner that, in fact, that there was work to be done. I have to presume that the new owner looked at the structure and has an understanding that it is not in a livable condition. Once again, under the rules and regulations regarding sale of real estate, the previous owner was required by law to disclose to them the outstanding violations. I will presume that they did that because conducting it in a lawful manner. I cannot guarantee that. I cannot testify to that in court. So we are going to contact the new owner as soon as we gather that information. I did not have an opportunity to call Ms. Bernardi back this afternoon. And as soon as we can get record of that, and specifically the deed recorded, then we can pursue that with the new owner.
But I'm assuming, and I won't be labored this anymore, but I'm assuming that we are not putting liens then on homes that we're following due process, we're notifying them, there's fines when things are not completed in a certain amount of time, and so therefore we are not liening these properties. Is that right, Ms. Spoon?
Well, there has to be authority to place a lien on the property, and again, we have taken action, but at this point in time, it's very likely that there's no legal way to put a lien on the property because I'm sure that no work has actually been done. We would put a lien on the property if we actually had to hire out the contractor to do the work.
Okay, but you can't lien penalties.
Well,
It would be extraordinary relief that a judge would have to grant.
Right.
I neglected to, if we're done on this item, then council comments, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to skip, I know.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't mean to skip over council comments did you have any?
Yeah, I had a couple comments on J11, this item, if I may.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I want to thank you for getting back to me on my questions regarding when the electrical utility turns off the power to a house. The second thing would be is to point out to all the viewers that not our city staff is good, but they don't look at every house every day in the whole city. If there's a house that's becoming bad,
right,
please give the building department a call And also, when Mrs. Bernardi was reading her quote out of the Farmington ordinance, I quickly opened up our Chapter 82B, which Mr. Steinmack mentioned, and several of the things you said are exact duplicate. So a copy of that would be good from our website.
Other council comments? I didn't mean to skip over those when I tried to go to the item. Okay. Then the closed session item, we need to have the yellow resolution added on to the one that's here, and then we can vote on all that together. And you're going to see Mr. Steinmack.
Madam Mayor?
Okay. I can talk to you after we do this item. Okay.
I could try this, Madam Mayor.
Yes.
Let's see.
Councilman Kerwin?
Resolved that Troy City Council shall meet in closed session as permitted by MCL 15.268E, Rome Love versus City of Troy, and City of Troy versus JMT Properties, LLC, and to discuss negotiations of a collective bargaining agreement with the TPOA as requested by City Administration and allowed by MCL 15.268C.
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman Kerwin, seconded by Councilwoman Broomfield, that we approve the resolution for closed session as stated. 2 reasons. Discussion? Vote, Mrs. Bartholomew?
Councilmember Broomfield,
Yes.
Eisenbacher,
Yes.
Fleming,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Kerwin,
Yes.
Mayor Schilling.
Yes. Motion passes. Then council's in recess. Oh, I'm sorry.
Just the study session, do we need a motion to
No.
reschedule, but it will be rescheduled?
He's just going to reschedule.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes. Mrs. Bernardi?